Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's May 31st, another beautiful Sunday here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Got a nice break in the weather. It's rained 15 days this month, so practically half the month, and we are just shy of 40 inches of rain. The past 2 days, this entire weekend, we've received about 14 inches out of the 40. So the bee yard, I don't know if you can see that or not, is a little wet, but for the most part it drains absolutely great. The weather has definitely kept the bees in the hive more than I would have liked for the month, which also affects the nectar flow and how much they can harvest. But with all that being said, we're back here at hive number 2 for a routine inspection. I did reduce them to I didn't reduce them to a single beat. They've been that for a while. But I did remove the honey super last week just because they really just didn't have the bee population needed to harvest any honey or to make surplus honey, really. So with their health in mind and their survival, I removed the honey super just so they can focus on building up. Let me get this stinger off the camera. I just got done with hive number 1 and the bees were just attacking the camera like usual. They like to sting the lens for some reason. So yeah, that happened with a few colonies actually. Ended up removing the supers just because swarms and everything else, they just haven't had the population build up in the right time to make surplus honey. So you win some, you lose some, and I keep looking at, I believe that is magnolia. I don't know if you can see that or not, the white flower there, which I believe the bees do get some food from. Alright, so enough of me yapping. Oh yeah, that's right. This came in the mail this past week. It is a one-handed queen catcher. If you watch hive number 1's video, I talk about it a little bit, but that's what the box looks like. So for the first time ever, I am going to try and mark some queens. So hopefully I have as much luck as I've had in the past weeks with finding the queens and caging them in this queen clip, which is fantastic. But this thing is a one-handed queen catcher, and it works just like that. It has this rolling door thingy, and then the plunger slides up. Yeah, so I'm going to try and mark some queens this year, just to see if, well, for obvious reasons, right? You mark your queen, makes it a little easier to find her, but the other advantage to that is you can, trying to find a place to put this, you can determine if that is the same queen or not, in case you think your colony has swarmed. So, in case you don't know why people mark their queens, that's probably one of the many reasons, really. Try and keep the smoker going. I got some green fuel in there, which is just using what I have available, and most of it's wet. All right, well, here's a quick look into number 2. Let's see if we can find the queen. See if they're queen right, which they were last time. But I really just want to find her so I can mark her, so I can use my new toy or tool. And again, overall, just checking the colony's health. All right, outside frame, like usual, mainly a food store, which is exactly what that is. And they're doing a nice job starting to cap some of the nectar they're bringing in. Let's get that out of the way. Number 2, same thing. It does have a lot of open cells though. That'd be a good frame for the queen to lay in if she made it out that far. But as I've said in previous videos, the hives on the left side of the bee yard, the hives that face east, or you know, closer to the east, these queens favor the left side of the box because it gets, my belief, it gets the first sun and it stays warmer than the right side of the colony. That's just my observations though. Alright, here we go. Starting to get into the brood. First things first, let's see if we can find the queen, and then I'll check for eggs on this frame. Alright, I don't see the queen at all, so let's check for some eggs. None on that side surrounding the capped brood. And none on that side. It looks like some of those cells may have hatched out recently, which does make sense why you wouldn't find an egg just yet. The bees typically go back and clean out the cells once they've recently hatched and polish them up, as some folks say. So don't be alarmed if you don't find any eggs surrounding the brood, because they may have recently hatched. It's a very nice frame for the queen to lay eggs in. I'm not sure why she skips that one, especially with it being in the middle. But again, they may have just recently hatched out. It's a nice frame. I'll check this side for eggs. I see very, very small pupated larvae down in the bottom side of the frame in the darker comb. And usually where you find eggs that have just started to pupate before they start becoming much larger, looking like a grub, and before they become capped around day number 9 or 10, you'll find some eggs. And yep, sure enough. So I said it in a previous video, you can almost trace back to eggs by finding the pupated larva. So start from the larger larva, and as it gets smaller, smaller, and smaller, sure enough, you can find some eggs that way. Yeah, okay. So they still have a laying queen, so there's really no sense in checking more frames for eggs, but I just might, because out of curiosity. So at this point, if I find any swarm cells, I can tear them down, seeing that they have eggs and a laying queen. So at this point, it's really just a matter of finding the queen, because I would like to mark her this week with my new tool. Yeah, same thing on this frame. I'm not going to get the flashlight, but I can see a lot of pupated larvae in between the capped brood there. So I imagine there's eggs all throughout. So they should blow up here in the next few weeks, meaning should see a increase in the bee population. I think it was this hive last week I found the queen on the very last frame, which happens. Oh yeah, yeah, they're definitely going to blow up in the next few weeks. Hopefully you can see that, and I'll change the angle. But all those little white grubs, that'll be capped brood here probably by next week when I come out to check on them. So this is frame 10-9, this is frame 8. So frame 8 that faces the left side, the east side of the box, should have a nice solid capped brood side. Yeah, same thing on this side too. This frame's really nice. Yeah, they're doing a good job. I think they just needed less space. So taking the super off seems to be a good idea. Just give them time to build up. Unfortunately, that means you won't harvest any honey from them, obviously, because there's not a super on there, but if you're trying to have a hive survive, sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes a reduction in space is the best thing for them. Alright, so now if I can just find the queen, that would be pretty cool. Alright, man. Let's see what we got. Nope, that's a drone. It's like the bees know when you want to do something different. All these other times when I come out here and I'm not trying to mark the queen at all, she's easy to find. And then go figure, the one time out of years of having these colonies, granted they're not the same queens, but you know what I'm saying, the first time I want to do something, all these queens don't want to be found. Alright, since that didn't really take too long, we're at 13 minutes, I guess it did take kind of long. I'm just going to go back through them quickly, whatever that means to you, just because I want to try and find the queen and use this marking tool for the first time. But they definitely have a queen, that's for sure. There's enough. There's plenty of eggs throughout a few frames. Didn't find any queen cells, didn't find any supersedral cells or swarm cells. So at this point, I'm doing this really just to try and find her because I want to mark her. And I know y'all can't tell, but it feels really nice out here. Temperatures in the mid-70s. The humidity is about the same. There's a nice little breeze coming through. Way better than last week, to where I actually had to take a break. I only got through half the hives, and I ended up going inside for a few hours to cool down because it was humid and hot, which is not the best combination when you're outside for a while. But yeah, today feels a lot better than last week. I don't think I checked this frame, but since I'm having a hard time finding her, just want to see how this frame's doing with the eggs. Oh yeah, there is a ton. It's not eggs in every cell. They started to pupate into some larvae, but yeah, This colony's doing a lot better with this queen, which they've produced their own queens this year. If you haven't watched the previous videos, quite a few of these colonies have swarmed, so, or superseded, one or the other. So this queen seems to be finding her groove with patterns like that. She's doing okay. Just can't find her really. Which, I mean, isn't a big deal. You don't have to find her every single time. As long as you find eggs and everything, which I have. Alright, maybe 2 more frames. And then give it a break. Feel good about this frame for some reason. I don't know why. It's got some nice weight to it, but I don't know. I feel like she's on here. That'd be kind of cool if I found her just now. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. Nope, not today. Alright, well, you know what? That's pretty much how things go sometimes, so couldn't find her this time around. They definitely have a queen based off the amount of eggs I found. So I'm just going to check this one last frame and then box them up. And it's a funny thing when you find her because she sticks out. I mean, she's very noticeable when you actually locate her, but as you can tell, sometimes locating her is rather difficult. Alright, well, that's unfortunate. Couldn't find her this week. Go figure. I had a feeling that might happen since I want to try something different for the first time. Not surprised, but anyway, that's hive number 2. They're looking pretty good. Pulling the honey super off and giving them space seemed to be a good idea. Alright, let's get them put back together. Alright, like I said, that's number 2. They look good. Plenty of frames of eggs and everything. Couldn't find the queen, as you saw. So I couldn't use my queen marker, but maybe one of the other hives I'll be able to find a queen and marker for the first time. Not as much commotion on the entrance as other hives that have more bees, but this hive is looking better. I know it's hard to say if you're watching one of the videos for the first time, but if you look back at the previous videos, this hive was struggling for a while, so it's nice to see that they have more bees. And next week, some of the frames, let's see, frames not 10, but probably 6 through 9 should have a lot of capped brood, and then the following week or so, maybe following 2 weeks, they should have a noticeable increase in bee population as that capped brood becomes hatched. So whatever queen they do have, she is doing a better job than the previous queens. Unfortunately, I had to remove the super, so no honey from this hive, but I got a few supers on from other hives, so we'll get some this year. But yeah, so at this point I'm really just trying to get them healthy enough and then build up the rest of the year, so hopefully they overwinter successfully. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Cole's Farm here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Starting to become a little overcast, but the weather still feels great. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel, and if you hit the bell, you'll receive notifications of future videos. We're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and you can find us by searching Cole's Farm NC, North Carolina, if you want to check out those platforms as well. All right, again, thanks for watching. Tune in next week for another routine inspection of hive number 2.